Disclaimer: this podcast was not made to slander or speak ill of any author we will soon talk about. We will try our best to disassociate the author from their books.
This is a book discussion, and we are just speaking our opinions and not just speaking negatively about any book.
And this is a spoiler warning.
Welcome to Book Expectations. This is Chapter 2, Divergent.
So here's a quick recap. The series, quite similar to the Hunger Games, takes place in the future where the society is split into 5 factions. By the right age, each person chooses a certain faction to commit to for the rest of their life. Kind of odd and twisted, but we'll go with it. The heroine, Tris Pryor, struggles to find where she belongs. She also learns something about herself that could lead to death, apparently, which we'll get to. She also starts to unravel the corrupted government and social system that was covered up by what was the perfect society.
To make this clear, we are very biased and we don't like Divergent.
Yeah, but that's our opinion. If you have a different opinion, that's okay. But that's also a trigger warning in case you really do like Divergent.
And if you like it, all power to you.
So first of all, in my opinion, the author style wasn't terrible. Like, the story, maybe not so good, but the author's writing, not bad.
Mm-hmm. It was a good concept. Well, was it a good concept? But in general, the execution was really bad.
And I personally didn't like how it's in first person, but I mean, in general, I just don't like first person books. But especially in Allegiant, when the perspective is like constantly changing between Tris and Four, it kind of just got really confusing because, you don't know, because there's always breaks and sometimes you don't know if it's like Tris thinking or if it's like Four,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, there were chapter titles, but sometimes I'd get confused and I'd get lost because Tris and Four were basically the same person.
I mean, yeah.
When Tris died and then it like switched to Four's perspective, I was so lost for a second. I thought that was still her, and I was like, she's dead, isn't she?
Yeah, it like showed her like going off to the afterworld or whatever, but it was just weird. And then all of a sudden it flipped to Four like doing stuff. But then he came back and realized she was dead. He was like, oh no!
I know, and I was confused because there was a break, but most chapters have breaks, and it kind of just got confusing that it was like Four and not Tris.
But, I mean, Allegiant in general just didn't make any sense. Why was everything they knew fake all of a sudden? Why was it all a lie? It came out of nowhere.
Yeah, it just kind of felt forced that the author just wanted to be like, oh, their society's corrupt, but they figure out that it's all fake and stuff.
Yeah, it's just this idea of there has to be a final rebellion, a final battle of sorts, and there has to be like the good people win in the end.
Did the good people win though?
I mean, technically.
Kind of.
I mean, Tris died, but everyone else.
Yeah. YA in general, no one wins.
Yeah.
It's always like some sad
where
ending.
Someone has to die or someone important dies.
I mean, but deaths are fun. You need deaths in books.
Deaths are fun.
That's cruel, but I do agree it does make it interesting.
I mean, as long as the deaths aren't my favorite characters, then I'm fine with deaths.
Oh no, it usually is though.
Yeah, better go there.
Okay.
When I liked Divergent, I was like sad when Tris died, but now I'm like, okay.
I don't really care.
It's fine.
When she died, I was just kind of like, okay, I guess that happened.
When she died, I was just sad because like she saw her mom or whatever, and I was like, oh my god, that's so deep. But it's not.
Oh.
So yeah.
Yeah, I used to really like Divergent too because I read it when I was pretty young.
I recently read the We Can Be Mended short story. It was supposed to be like a continuation kind of, or like final like resolution, of like Allegiant. But it was basically just like a fan fiction,
Yeah.
Somebody just wanted to write a fan fiction where Christina and Four end up together in the end. And it was such a money move for Veronica Roth to just add that into her new book just to like get people to buy her new book just for that.
Yeah, it was like 30 pages, and that's like, I mean, yeah, 30 pages for an epilogue is a bit long, but most of the details could be condensed.
I just feel like she just didn't put any effort into it. Like, she didn't try. There was no plot. The characters were barely there. It was just Four and Christina. But then Four and Christina were barely even themselves.
Most short stories usually just don't have plot, but I feel like this one short story where it's from her most popular series, I feel like it should have had like a better, plot or
It
structure.
needed effort. That was my problem. She just didn't try. She just wanted the money.
Yeah, I feel like I probably couldn't, but I feel like most people who are, somewhat talented at writing could do that, and it's not like a big deal. It's just she already had influence, and so she was like, I can write anything I want, and it'll be fine.
Yeah, and I mean, she made it 30 pages. She could have like somehow made it into some type of story or something.
I mean, I did like that it was the last line of Allegiant where Four was like, it's okay, we can be mended. And it showed how he healed after Triss's loss. But I feel like he shouldn't have mended by being in a relationship with her best friend.
Overall, Divergent is just overhyped. Like, I'm sorry. Like, you can still enjoy it if you want, but it's just overhyped.
But the story in the world is way overhyped. Like, what is up with all of these dystopian authors thinking that teenagers can change the world and rebel against the government? They're too moody and full of hormones to do anything.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the concept of dystopia and how the society wants to rebel against the government. But the book series Divergent just didn't have a plot. It's just the idea of dystopian, where the government's corrupt and the society rebels. But, in Hunger Games, it had the games, it had the Quarter Quell, but in Divergent, it just had the characters and factions, which wasn't plot, it was just the elements of the story.
Yeah, but even in the first book, chose to go into Dauntless, but then after that, the plot was nothing. It was just her training, but it kind of showed her getting better, but it was no plot. It was just character development. And then all of a sudden, they just had a rebellion going on out of nowhere, basically.
Yeah, plot is supposed to revolve around conflict, but like there was just one conflict which is just divergents are being hunted, and honestly they didn't even do anything to solve it. They were just like, well, instead of like, hiding or whatever, let's just attack them. And that was stupid.
But the author had some good themes, like finding one's identity.
Triss's identity is literally being suicidal, but it's okay.
She was somewhat strong, I'd say.
She was suicidal. She literally kept on wanting to sacrifice herself.
That's true. That's true.
Like, in Divergent, in the end, when she was going against Four, she literally pointed the gun at her head and was like, it's me. But what if Four didn't wake up? Then what would happen? She'd be dead.
He would have shot her.
Yeah.
She would have shot herself.
She would have died earlier than she would have in the series.
Maybe then the series could have ended and we wouldn't have to go through the pain of reading.
Exactly.
No hate. It's fine.
Definitely no hate.
Yeah, no hate, except we hate it every second.
Anyways, the books also show like corrupt social structure. Again, it's not great development, but like the idea is somewhat there. You can tell that was trying to be conveyed to the readers. Didn't really work, but it was there, and like, I don't know, you could, if you were younger, I think you could still learn the lesson.
Yeah, you could argue that like there was better development. And it's not really, but some could argue there was.
I just feel like the world was really out of nowhere, like the social structure. Why were factions a thing? Like, at least for Hunger Games, they had the game, so it was more entertaining. And people were dying, so it was fun.
That's really cruel of you, but yes.
But I just don't understand Divergent. Where was it coming from?
A lot of the ideas, like the simulations and the serums, I get that it's like a high-tech world. It's just, other than like making a person being identified as divergent like be targeted, it didn't really, I don't know, it didn't really impact anyone else other than Triss, but it would have been cool to see that, I guess. I don't know. That's what I think.
To be honest, I think Triss was the worst heroine in the history of heroines. She was just trashier and whiter version of
Whittier.
Katniss.
I think it was like super cliche that she thought she was being selfless and would sacrifice herself for the rest of humanity, even though she was literally just creating more problems for Four and like the Allegiant people and like all her friends. Like she just didn't know when to stop.
Like in Insurgent, they had to go out of their way for Four to save her, when she could have just discussed and like talked to them about, instead of just jumping into conclusions and doing stuff on her own.
But I do get she just like didn't want to get people she loved hurt and stuff. But I think
But she still
she should have just been
made
more
them.
practical rather than reckless.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
very reckless. All the characters were very reckless.
And 4 was really weird.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. His name is kind of stupid. Like, it's at the time when I read it, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, he has 4 fears. But now I'm just like, why? That's really weird.
It's a number. I don't understand it. I know they tried to make it like so cool because it shows his strengths, but who has 4 fears?
Yeah, he's like a cool dude.
I have a lot more than 4 fears, but you know. Yeah, but I won't name
Yeah.
myself what infinity, no.
Oh my god, I'm afraid of literally everything, but we won't talk about it. This is not a therapy
Yeah.
session.
That's like me
Yeah.
going, actually, I'm 5,062. Like, no.
I mean, the name Infinity's pretty cool, but like...
I wouldn't name myself that because I had a lot of fears.
And then, 4 out of nowhere, they showed how he was abused when he was younger. And I know Roth just tried really hard to make her characters have a bad past, but I just don't understand it. I feel like it was out of nowhere.
Yeah, and he was just really mean in the beginning.
Yeah, he was not cool.
I didn't like him at first, and in general, like after, he and like Triss started to like each other, I was just like, okay, I guess.
I didn't like him in general. I think Triss and 4 was so forced.
Why were they a thing? It didn't make sense at first.
It was
It
kind of
didn't make
creepy
sense
in
at all.
general.
But then there's another factor. Their relationship's
Yeah, it was
really
creepy.
bad. He was her trainer. That's a power imbalance. What if Triss all of a sudden was like, yo, 4 is really whiny, I want to break up with him. But then she can't because he's like really powerful and he'd go, oh.
Yeah, and he'll just make her factionless because he's just all whiny like that.
Yeah. And yeah, it's only a 2-year age gap, so he's not that much older than her. But it's a power imbalance, and that's not okay for Roth to try.
It's kind of just like a teacher and a student relationship.
Yeah, and like the thing is, he treats her like a child too. Like he's like, oh, I should take care of her. I should, I need to like make sure you're safe. It's like, no, please don't.
He never respected Triss in the first 2 books, and then finally, when Triss was all powerful, when they left the world to find like the creators or whatever, he just like became more whiny, and he was like, yeah, but Triss, you're so powerful, what about me? I'm not Divergent anymore, but shut up. And
Not to mention, oh, sorry, you can go.
yeah, but Triss and 4, they were fine, they were okay, they weren't the absolute worst couple I've ever read about, but then there's 4 and Christina.
That was the most random thing.
That got on my nerves. I was like,
Exactly.
I didn't like Triss and 4, but Christina and 4 isn't gonna work either.
Exactly. Why would Christina just start dating her dead best friend's boyfriend?
Yeah, isn't there like, I mean, there's boy code, but like, girl code? I don't know. Like, just out of respect, if someone dies, you don't go to date. Okay.
That goes against every friendship that, like, why would she do that to Tris, kind of thing.
Exactly. Like, I thought Christina and Tris were best friends.
Yeah.
But clearly
Yeah.
Christina doesn't have respect for her.
Yeah, because Tobias can move on, he can date someone else, but don't date her best friend.
Yeah, and especially not that soon. Like that, I think they only made it like 5 years or something like that. I don't remember the exact date, but it was like a pretty short period. Like I remember thinking that's kind of fast.
I don't know, 5 years is kind of
I don't
long,
know,
though.
but like 5 years after someone dies.
I feel like I don't know, I feel like Roth should have also included in her, what's it called, the short story, We Were Mended, like, how they were able to cope with her death and stuff, you know? Or, like, the time it took for them to get over her death.
In general, like how the world survived, because like they destroyed the entire system.
Yeah. We Were Mended was just put in a really bad place. Nothing happened. But then all of a sudden, Four and Christina were a thing all of a sudden. And the readers had no clue what happened. They didn't know what happened in between that time period.
Exactly, like it just seems just so random that they would get together and there wasn't any, you know, development
Yeah, I
between
think
them.
like strictly speaking, they were platonic completely because they had both like their significant others had like literally died. Tris shot Will, so you know there's that. But like in general, like I don't think they could ever. I mean, if they ever did date someone else, they wouldn't date each other because that's just mean. That's cruel. That's kind of just messed up.
Yeah, and I wouldn't think that Four would immediately start dating another person since it took him a while to even let himself be with Tris or to like.
And his entire character just goes against everything. Like,
Yeah, he's supposed to be like the loyal dude.
yeah, like when Tris, joined Dauntless, she was different. She was cool. She was not like other girls. But for him to all of a sudden like Christina, it makes no sense. It completely changed his character. It made
Speaking of Tris dying, though, it is interesting when a main character dies.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've ever read any other story where the main character died. I mean, other than like Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually in YA, the main character doesn't die unless it's some tragedy or something.
Yeah, oh, unless it's like supposed to be part of the plot.
Yeah, or they come back alive, or revive themselves, come back alive.
But I feel like, I don't know, I feel like Tris dying didn't exactly help the plot.
Yeah.
She kind of just killed her off, you know?
She just died out of nowhere.
Yeah, I feel like Roth.
Yeah, her sacrifice wasn't that necessary.
Yeah, I think Roth just wanted to have some tragedy in the end, but just didn't develop it well enough.
Everyone who was killed off was either POC or LGBTQ.
Is there even LGBT in Divergent?
There was Lynn. There was one character.
Yeah, while she was dying, she was like, "Oh, I liked her too," or something.
Marlene.
I loved her too.
She liked Marlene too, but there was no hint of her.
She said it while she was dying.
Yeah, there was no hint of her being lesbian, but then she was all of a sudden, and that just makes no sense. So I feel like Roth was just trying to get there some diversity in there because there literally was none.
Yeah, like out of all the people she had to kill, she killed like the people, like the diverse characters, and then when she chose to like kill Tris, she had no reason for it.
But there were people of color, right? Wasn't Christina
Yeah,
person of
but
color?
it's just not a lot.
But I mean, I don't. Yeah, other than that, I don't think there was any other.
I mean, in the movies there were some, but that's a different topic. Not the books. That's
Again,
the problem.
not
But
the
personally,
books.
I like the character development with Tris and how she started to accept herself, and she helped a lot of people accept that they were divergent and becoming more brave. But at the same time, that's not plot. It's just development.
And the development happened really quick too, so it wasn't even
It happened in one book.
significant, I guess. I don't know.
And it was weird that Tris's mom was from the outside world and she wasn't actually a part of the experiment. Like, that was just out of nowhere. The whole experiment thing was out of nowhere.
Yeah, I didn't really understand it until I went back and reread some parts.
And like, I don't know, Triss's entire family just seemed, I don't know, they seemed so fake. They seemed like, oh, the most ideal type family in the beginning, but then, in the end, they just seemed to all want backstab her and stuff. I mean, it's mostly just Caleb. He just betrayed her a lot.
Caleb was such a jerk. I hated him.
Exactly. And then, like, he didn't even care about her until she died. And he's like, oh no, my sister's dead.
Yeah, he betrayed her so many times. Like, he was basically the reason she died. And then afterwards, he's like, oh my god, my
And
sister.
she died in order to protect Caleb because in the Legion, they were going to try and like fix everything, but there was a serum. And then Caleb was supposed to go. He was supposed to be the scapegoat and sacrifice himself. But then Triss out of nowhere was all like, yo, I can do it instead. But that makes no sense. Why? Is it an older brother supposed to be protective of his younger sister?
Well, Trish is just more loyal than her brother.
Oh, and he was forgiven. He was forgiven by like Four and Christina.
Why did they forgive him, even though he'd done so many bad things to them?
He betrayed them in every book pretty much. And yet he's still forgiven.
Yeah, that like basically redemption arc just doesn't, like, out of all the redemption arcs any author could write, his just can't happen anymore.
Like, I don't think it was developed enough because, I don't know, I don't think they ever, like, fully explained why or when they forgave him and stuff.
Yeah.
It was just in that one short story where he was just suddenly a part of their groupie.
Yeah.
And then Four and Christina's relationship was not even healthy. Like, they kept on mentioning Triss. And Christina was accusing of him wanting to see her in the fear landscape. That's literally no trust. Christina didn't trust Four, and she was insecure about it, basically. Like, that's not okay.
Yeah, she was like constantly jealous. Their relationship is basically just based off of Four and Triss. Like, if Four wanted to date anyone else, he probably could have. But he chose Christina because he's like, oh, well, she also lost Triss. Wait, did I say Four or Triss? I can't remember. But, like, Four was like, oh, well, Christina's also lost Triss. We've gone through this together.
And also lost her own love
person.
interest.
Yeah.
Person.
Yeah.
Significant other.
But they wouldn't
I don't know.
They wouldn't have even been friends if it wasn't for Triss. Because, once again, Four was their instructor. Christina didn't care about Four at all before she saw that Triss and Four were a thing all of a sudden. And then another thing that was really weird is that they mentioned about how he first thought when they jumped, how Triss jumped, and then he thinks of Christina because he was like, oh yeah, but then there's Christina. So it shows how Christina's his second choice. Not good.
While we're on the topic of toxic, Triss and Four, like, I already know we talked about the relationship, but they were also really toxic. Like, I just want to put that out there. Like, they weren't perfect either. So, Peter and Caleb didn't, like, yes, they were toxic, but also, like, you gotta remember the main characters were also bad, so.
So let's talk about the factions.
Doris has a lot of beef with the factions.
Especially Abnegation.
Yeah. So there's Dauntless, Abnegation, Amity, Erudite, and Candor. The factions didn't make sense. They were crappy versions of the houses in Harry Potter. Dauntless was Gryffindor, Erudite was like Ravenclaw and Slytherin, and then Amity was Hufflepuff. What is Candor? What is that? The test is... Okay, and then the test is stupid. How can one question determine what personality trait you have? One test question.
Yeah, like choosing whether to kill a dog or feed it cheese or whatever already decides that you're like, oh, you're brave or you're...
Yeah, it's like those BuzzFeed quizzes where, like, the answers are very obvious. It's like, like, you know, Harry Potter houses is like, how do you spend your free time? Reading, I don't know, like playing sports,
helping people,
uh,
volunteering.
leading teams.
Like,
Yeah,
it's just so obvious.
Yeah.
it's obvious.
And I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like if people want to be a part of a different faction, they'll like specifically choose the option that like,
Yeah.
you know, gives them, I don't know,
And then
that final result.
it just, the factions, they were supposed to be all perfect, but then out of nowhere, all of a sudden, Erudite was controlling everyone. They had a whole scheme going around. They were going to kill everyone. They were going to create a homicide and kill all of Abnegation. How does that happen out of nowhere?
Yeah, and they literally like had all this technology and they just decided, you know, let's inject a serum. Like out of everything they could have done, like a serum that could literally be avoided easily. I don't know.
Yeah.
It didn't make
Like, I
sense to
thought
me.
this was supposed to be such a perfect society. Everybody was all equal and stuff, and then I don't know, all of a sudden Erudite just wanted to control the world.
Yeah. But then Dauntless was useless. It's just being reckless. Why are you jumping off trains and roofs? Why is that your first thought to do? Why is that a thing? And why are you doing such stupid things?
Like, they think that jumping off roofs and trains and other stupid actions makes you brave.
Yeah, they're like, oh, you know, they protect the city. Like, from what? Your society is supposed to be perfect. And, like, they were the first people to get brainwashed. Like, I don't think that's protecting society.
And then the whole training that they did, why are they fighting against each other? Why are they literally kicking out half the people or whatever? Why? Like they literally kicked out the old and made them factionless. What is that? Yeah, or they killed them.
Or they killed them.
Yay.
And then
I don't get why. Oh, sorry.
And then it just doesn't make sense because they were literally abusing their, not tributes, like the people, like their, the people that were like joining the Dauntless or whatever. They were like when Christina was all beat up and she wanted to give up. Of course, she wanted to give up. She was basically dead. And then
she didn't want to get beaten to death.
Yeah, she didn't want to pass out. And then Eric was all like, "Yo, I see her in pain. Wow, you must be weak. Go hang off a literal like a bridge over like a chasm." What is that? What? She's already like in a lot of pain. She's injured. Take care of her, or no, or else she's weak.
And she should be factionless.
Yeah, it's basically Dauntless is the perfect image of toxic masculinity, but also inflicted onto females.
But then Dauntless is stupid. But then what about abnegation? They were selfless. They literally, what is it? They literally decided, oh my god, we're so selfless. I'd rather die than let someone else die. No! The whole point, it's okay to be a little selfish. That's how humans survive.
Yeah, self-preservation is like the main thing about
it's like you're
evolution.
You just can't care about yourself. Like, what if you're in, I don't know, not eating enough, and they're like, oh no, if you eat too much, it's too selfish or something.
Yeah, and then apparently everything is selfish. You can't take the elevator, you're being selfish. You can't eat nice food, you're being selfish. You can't look in a mirror, you're being selfish. What is that?
Can't wear nice colors, it's too selfish.
They literally wore like potato
like
sacks
gray.
or something, like, or I don't know.
And gray's
it was
nice
like disgusting colors.
Why can't they wear other colors?
They could have worn like
no one
orange.
likes orange.
Like white, maybe.
Oh yeah, white. But white's kind of. But white.
Yeah. I thought white was Candor.
It was like black and white. No. They were white.
No.
Wait.
Dauntless is black.
Dauntless was black. Erudite was blue. Amity was yellow.
Was like red and
of
yellow.
course they were.
Abnegation could have been orange.
And then
of course, all the colors are like the ones in Harry Potter houses.
Yeah. But then
Exactly.
abnegation was literally on the brink of death. They were literally giving everything else to everyone. But the one thing they had was that they were the government leaders. They were controlling everything. But then Erudite all of a sudden was like, "Oh, they're stealing everything. Aren't you supposed to be smart? Aren't you supposed to see that they're literally giving everything up, and that's why they're the government leaders? They don't think about themselves. They're already helping you."
Yeah.
Was it like abnegation the farmers?
No, that was Amity.
No,
Oh.
they were government people.
Yeah,
Amity was like
abnegation were like
farmers and stuff.
volunteers and they helped stuff.
Because like Erudite was all like, oh, abnegation keeps stealing all the food and stuff.
Wait, but then if abnegations
Yeah.
like their main jobs were like being volunteering, how would they earn money? How do they buy things? Oh no, you can't earn money and get money from a job. That's being selfish. What if someone else needs that money? No, you're gonna starve to death.
Yeah, in general, like the system doesn't make sense. Like there's no way they produce their own clothes and like, like other than food, like they had, I don't know, buildings. Like no one was a builder.
I don't know,
like,
each faction probably had like workers doing all that stuff.
Yeah, they had like
I don't know, cuz like the faction list didn't do anything.
That's true. And there's a lot of factionless people.
yeah.
Honestly, there's just plot holes all over the place because that just
But
doesn't
then Amity
make sense.
was weird too. Like they had some personality traits. They were naive. They were happy. But then they were happy. That's a personality trait apparently.
I'm happy. I'm Amity.
I mean, they're like supposed to be all friendly, I guess.
Yeah. They were Hufflepuff.
Hufflepuff.
Basically, like Hufflepuff.
But then,
But Hufflepuff.
I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say, but Hufflepuff actually has like actual personality traits.
They were loyal and hardworking.
Amity is just happy.
Happy.
And it wasn't even like true happiness.
they were
Weren't they drugged or something?
Why is that not talked about? They were being drugged. It was in their bread. They couldn't eat without eating some drugs to force them to be happy.
And like that's also confusing because if you can choose your own faction, if like your faction is chosen because of your personality and you're put in Amity, then shouldn't you like already be happy? Like why are you getting drugged to be happier? Like that doesn't make sense. I don't get it.
Okay, but then candor was also really weird. Honesty is not a personality trait. Let's make that clear.
Yeah, and they just told the truth all the time.
Yeah.
Like there's no way they didn't tell a white lie every once in a while.
The truth
that
serum,
doesn't seem possible.
What is that? Why? Do they not have privacy? Can they not have like their inner thoughts? Can they not like? Not everyone wants to know your opinions.
Like sometimes telling the truth the entire time isn't good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I get how like they're like the judicial system, I guess, so they need to be like unbiased. They need to be always like fair and all that. But like I don't know. Honesty doesn't always mean that you're fair.
But then are the other factions not allowed to be honest without being divergent? You have to have some honesty. You can't just tell lies all the time. But oh no, if you're honest, all of a sudden you're divergent. What is that?
What is that for real though?
Like candor is just, why is that even a faction? Because you can't just be honest.
There's a reason that honesty. Yeah.
Why not just stick to the Harry Potter houses? Like why you gotta add another
like
one?
Honesty and selflessness.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But then the factions, none of them are personality traits. No, they're not actual personality traits.
Yeah.
It's what they value, but then they all act the same way and have no individuality.
Yeah, I just don't think that, like, the way Veronica Roth describes the factions, it just seems exclusive. Like, you can't be happy and brave. You can't be honest and selfless. Like, first of all, that doesn't make sense. You can't, like, honesty and selflessness, I feel like they kind of go in the same category. I don't know. It's just, and then, like, what makes a person divergent? I
Yeah.
don't get it.
And then why is it a betrayal if someone switches a faction? And why was everyone so angry? If they were that serious about it, then what's the
They're
whole
just
point of
being
switching?
who they are.
Yeah. Aren't parents supposed to
They're just
love their
being who
kids
they
no matter
are.
what?
Exactly. And then they just won't visit them on, like,
Mm-hmm.
on that day.
Yeah. And then if they switch a faction, aren't they basically divergent? Like Christina was
Yeah, because, like,
you
you've
were
been
raised as
raised
this.
as a certain trait,
Yeah.
and then suddenly you
Like
switch.
Christina was really honest in the beginning of Divergent, like brutally honest. So then 4 hated her. Is she not Divergent?
She's supposed to be honest and brave,
Yeah.
which is kind of
Stupid.
basically divergent.
Yeah. I don't understand anything.
The idea of divergence is just stupid
Yeah.
because, like, it's just having a personality is bad.
Yeah.
It's dangerous. Because they're forming opinions. Like, okay, first of all, that's also stupid. Like, they're like, oh my god, they feel more emotion than us. I'm so scared. Like,
oh my god, they actually have personality traits.
Ugh.
I'm so scared. They actually have opinions. I'm so scared.
Wait, but didn't they think that, like, the people who are divergent could, like, take over the government or something?
Who
Didn't they think?
knows?
I think they
probably.
thought that
I
at
don't know.
some point. That's why, like, they're like, oh, you have to keep it a secret that you actually have personality.
It's just weird.
Yeah.
Why, if you're divergent, if you actually have a personality trait, why can you all of a sudden not be affected by the serums?
Yeah, like, that's so random. It's not like
Psychologically.
it's like a personality trait isn't a DNA type thing.
Yeah, it's just like opinions.
It's like it's like a mental thing. I don't think serums can, like, mess with, like,
yeah, I don't think it would mess with anything. It's just stupid.
because I feel like serums can only, like, mess with, like, can only be based off of your DNA and not actual personality, based on your personality.
Yeah. Overall, Doris does not like the factions, period.
Especially erudite.
All of them just suck. So, have you guys watched the movies?
I watched
Yeah.
it, I watched it when it, like, came out. I just don't remember much of it. I just remember not liking it.
Technically got the plot right, at least for the first movie. I know that they changed like a director in the middle, like for the second movie, but the plot was right at least.
But I think
I would say that's like the only good
yeah,
thing.
I think the casting was, like, kind of weird.
Yeah, I did not like the casting.
I didn't like the casting for Triss. I didn't really imagine Triss to, like, look like, how do you say her name?
Shailene Woodley.
Shailene Woodley?
Yeah.
I really hope I'm not butchering her name.
Period of time where Shailene Woodley was being like cast in literally everything.
Yeah.
And 4 was
In
like,
general, the cast was like so old. Sorry.
and 4 was, like, kind of ugly. No hate.
They were really ugly, but then all the actors were way too old for how they were trying
Yeah,
to.
they
like,
were so old. They
Exactly.
were like probably like late 20s. I don't know, or maybe
I
like
think
mid 20s.
Shailene
And they
Woodley
were playing
was
like 16-year-olds.
yeah. I'm pretty sure Shailene Woodley was like 20, like early 20s. But then I'm pretty sure 4 was like in his early 30s or something. So
Well then.
yeah, I don't know. I might be getting it wrong.
That age
but
gap is kind of bad.
Yeah, but it's just they didn't act young. They didn't act naive. They were just obviously too old.
Yeah, they had like experience And so they just didn't portray their stupidness well enough, I think. Like, they're good actors, or in general, I think they were. It's just, given the characters they had to play, it just didn't really fit.
It was also weird because Augustus Waters and Hazel Lancaster were played by the same
Oh my God,
people
I
as
hated
Caleb
that.
and
I
Trina.
hated that.
Like
it was
that's
so weird.
That's not.
When I looked at, like, the movie posters, I was like, no, 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 no. Like, they are siblings. Please don't make them. I mean, I get they're actors.
Yeah.
But, like,
I don't know, it kind of just messed with my head. I'm just like, I can
yeah,
only
and like they
see
were
them
like
as
the movies were made around the same time too.
like
So
I could only see them as like Augustus Waters and Hazel Lancaster, not as like Tris and Caleb.
And then Peter and Tris, so whatever the actor for Peter and Shailene Woodley were also in another movie called The Spectacular Now. So that's also really awkward. So
don't love that.
yeah. The movies were just not good. Like Forest Fear Landscape didn't look as cool as I imagined it for when I was reading it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It just looked boring.
And Tris was still alive at the end of Allegiant.
Oh my God.
Like that irritated me.
They wanted money. They
When I
wanted
was
money,
watching
and they
it-
were gonna make a whole other series.
Oh really?
They were gonna make a whole
Yeah,
series.
Yeah, they were gonna make like a
Ugh.
series, and they were gonna keep Tris alive because they wanted
Bro.
money.
Why would they keep
Money,
Tris
money, money.
alive? Tris isn't even a good character to keep alive.
I know. And like when I was watching the movies, because I watched the movies like later, like 6th grade or 7th grade. And so I just remember thinking like, when is she gonna die? When's she gonna die? And then she didn't die, and I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I mean, that's kind of mean, but like, you know, she's supposed to die.
They were gonna make a second movie, right, for Allegiant, but that never happened.
Yeah, they were gonna make a part 2 for Allegiant, but the second movie was really bad. Like the serums for Erudite, I thought it was just a shot, and they were just going to like keep her there. But then Tris was like connected to cables, which was weird.
Yeah, she's like a doll, like a
Yeah,
puppet.
she was a puppet.
So overall, I think the book was worse than worse. I hated it. I'm sorry to
Yeah.
those who like it.
We did not like
I'm
it.
trying not to offend anyone, of course.
Yeah.
If you like it, it's fine. But these are our honest opinions.
Like, maybe you'll consider our thoughts. Maybe you'll change your opinion. Maybe you won't. Maybe you'll hate us. That's okay.
Thank you for listening to Book Expectations with Anya, Doris, and Isabel. Email us at bookexpectationspodcast@gmail.com. That is bookexpectationspodcast@gmail.com for any recommendations on what books you'd like to hear next.
Make sure you join us next week when we talk about The Mortal Instruments by Cassandra Clare.